back to my channel. Today I bring you the Rhythm of War review. This is gonna be fun. It's a very long book and I have so many things to say about it because it was amazing that definitely needed a whole long video just for me to gush over it. I'm gonna try to be concise, but there is so much I want to say about it, so I don't promise anything at all. And yeah, let's get started. So this is the fourth book in the Stormlight Archive series by Brandon Sanderson, and it's also the book that it's almost at the end of like part one, because the series is gonna have 10 books, both, and it's gonna be divided in two little groups of 5 books, like to cover, I guess, one part on an overarching arc, I think. And after book 5, there is gonna be a longer wait between books 5 and 6. So that's gonna be interesting, which also means that book 5 is gonna be super intense and it's gonna have to end some cliffhangers that are gonna power us through a couple of years of waiting. So yeah, this is already ramping up everything for that 5th book and it's making it intense. It almost feels like it's the book before the last on a series, because it is kinda like that, but not really. There's a bunch of things happening in this book, but also not so many. I don't know, it feels like a lot, but also like seeing it overall, it's not so terrible. Let's get started into really talking about the book. And the series is always so complicated for me to describe because it's such a huge world and a huge idea that it's kind of difficult to explain. But did you have these characters, Dalinar, Kaladin, and Shalon, and you follow them in their journeys. They're very specific for them. You have Shalon, who is trying to deceive the smartest woman in the whole kingdom because she needs to rob her. You have Dalinar, who is a very respected general in this huge war that's going on, but he's also hearing voices, so you know, everyone is a little worried about him. And then you have Kaladin, who is going through very complicated situations and he has to deal a lot with his past. And with all of this, a lot of other things are happening in the world and they're gonna find out some very startling truths about the world they live in, and the truths that they thought were set in stone that maybe aren't so clear anymore. You have this very ancient war going on, you have amazing powers and magic system, and a world that is pounded by very huge storms, and how everything it has had to, you know, adapt and evolve to be able to sustain life. It doesn't matter that these storms go through the world very constantly, and these characters are just trying to solve their issues and how everything connects and how everything interlaces, and it's just beautiful. You have legends and you have so much going on in it. It's a beautiful fantasy and super epic as well. And that's a very over kind of description of the world, but yes, if you love complicated politics as well, this book has complicated politics as well. First thing I want to say about this book is that I love how we keep revisiting the prologue. We have had the same moment in time for the prologue for all the books, but each time we see it from a different perspective, a different character. It is an incredibly important point that drives the plot forward, and it has a lot more intricacies that we first believe, so I love how we keep revisiting that. It's so interesting, I love it, and I don't know, I just find it fascinating that we can disclose this one moment, one day in a year in life, and it's so mysterious and it has so many little secrets and details, and it's just so much fun. I love it. The book starts very strongly. You got into action from the very beginning, and that's a great way to start because the book is gigantic. It has over 1200 pages, so to start with a lot of action just drives the what's gonna happen in the book. This is to start very high and it delivers on that, but it's just a great way to start in the middle of the action. I love seeing Clarín just being Clarín, and he's awesome. And a lot of also important things are being seated in here, which I absolutely love. It was really fun. Clarin's opening is already very emotional, and this book centers a lot into Clarin, Shalon's, and Vani's emotional journeys, which I love. I love Clarin and Vani so much. Shalon, I'm gonna get into it in a second, but I think it was beautiful just seeing from the beginning the point where we are starting and how everyone is doing emotionally, because there is a bunch of things to be said about that, and we have a very strong opening into that. Aside from the emotional side of things, we're also presented with some mysteries from the get-go, which were interesting, but also I wasn't overly invested. I think everything else that was going on was a lot more interesting than those precise mysteries that were introduced with Shalon. It wasn't bad, like it wasn't boring or anything, but I'm also like, I could have gone without them, and I probably could have just flowed just the same the book without those particular details. But I don't understand when they were necessary as well, because they offer some levity to the book, which was nice. I also love Adeline so much. I think he's just precious, and he serves so much in this world, which you can see from the very beginning. He's just trying his best, and he deserves some recognition because of that, and I love him so much. I needed to say that from the beginning. We move forward, and our two triplets are starting to take place. The one that is happening with Naman and Clarín and Northero, and then you have Adeline's and Shalon's, and you have Dalinar's, and three plots that we are following. Of them all, my favorite is definitely the one happening on Orithero. Super intense, and it makes the whole middle of the book so interesting. I just couldn't stop reading for a second because it's just super emotional, super intense, super psychological, and very mind-blowing and mind-twisting. So you have to pay a lot of attention, and it's so fun. We are introduced in this particular arc to some very fun characters. Well, in the whole book we're introduced to some very fun characters, but I especially love Raboniel. She is a queen, and she's such a great villain. Like, I was feeling her so much. How I haven't felt a villain in a long time. She was super interesting, and getting into her mind was mind-blowing. Like, she is a very good villain for the story, just so interesting, and all her interactions with Navani were my favorite thing in the book, definitely. They were fun, they were mind-twisting, and they were so... Sorry about that, my camera died, but I'm back. And as I was saying, their interactions are just so interesting and mind-blowing, and I love just seeing them interact. It was fascinating, and it just made me love everything about their interactions. Navani is amazing in the book as well, and she is definitely the one that just stole the spotlight for me. She has so many very cool interactions and ideas that are going on through her, and moments in this book, and I love that she puts us very much into the whole intellectual part of the book, because it does have a lot of that. It does have a lot of very technical things, which I found fascinating, even if I had to read them 1 or 2 times to really understand them. but it was just really fun to do and to see how this world works and to get into the details of everything and understanding it better, because it is so complex and so detailed that it's amazing and beautiful. And I had such an amazingly fun time seeing that through Navani's eyes, seeing her wonder at all of these things, and it's just wonderful and so fulfilling. I love seeing Navani get more of a spotlight, and I loved everything about her, because I think that you finally can understand her after everything that she has already done for the books, which makes the whole middle of the book super interesting, because as I said, you start very strongly, and of course at the middle of the book or at some part of the book you need to slow down a little to let things brew, and that is the middle of the book. It's just everything brewing, but it's so interesting just seeing everything kind of fall into place, all the little cogs working. It was so interesting. I did not felt any of the past of this book. It was so well done, and you also have all of Kaladin's and Shalon's journey going on through this whole mess in the middle of the book, and they are going through some very interesting things. They have been going through some very interesting things through the whole series, and at this point things are just moving and they're just very dense for both of them, and I love seeing that. I don't understand Shalon a lot of the time, but I do find her journey very fascinating to just kind of see from the very outside point of view that I have, and it's kind of fascinating, even if it is a little exasperating. It was fun to just move and see how things are gonna move forward and where we are gonna go with all of these. It was really fun, and I will say that it was also pretty rewarding at the end. I love Adolin, as I have already said, even though his part of the plot wasn't exactly what stole my heart. I did enjoy it a lot. It has some very intense moments and kept me on my toes, because in the other side of things I was pretty much confident in how things were gonna turn out, but I was pretty much on my toes about everything going on with Adolin, and it was so fun. It just made me love his character a lot more, and I think he deserves a lot of respect for what he does and goes through in this book. And even though this all felt, the whole middle of the book felt a little more relaxed, there is really not a moment where something is not blowing up in some sense or another. Maybe not a physical full-on battle, though the book does have those a lot peppered to the book, but maybe it's just a huge revelation or something that finally clicks and makes sense, and those are still very intense. The last part of the book, it's just cardiac to the last, super intense, had me in tears. I was dissolved in tears about everything, because it was just so ramped up and emotional. Just everything is happening right now, and it broke my heart. It filled my heart. It made my heart stopped. It made it race, and it was just amazing to go through all of that. It was beautiful. It was very rewarding. It was also really fun at the same time that it was really emotional. I don't know. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. It was very hard-hitting, and I just want to kind of reread those last chapters over and over again, and just live in those chapters. If I could, I would be really happy about that. The plot twists at the very end are plot twists, because I could not have thought about them at all. Like, I kind of have figured out how things will solve themselves or figure themselves out by the end of the book, sort themselves and where we're gonna go at that point, and I was pretty much spot on those. But there are some plot twists that, my god, what they mean for the next book. I'm already anxious about book 5 because of everything that happened at the end of this book. It was so mind-blowing, so twisted, so chilling and beautiful and exciting, and I'm just really anxious. I'm just really anxious for next book. Whew, I need to calm down. Give me a second. It was amazing. It was so fun to see all these characters and everything that is going on and all the parts that they are playing. Adeline, Shalom, Navani, Kalani, Dolinar. It broke my heart that he wasn't so much in this book. I love him and I loved every moment he was in it, but he wasn't so much in it that it broke my heart. But I love everything that was with him, and Banyan, who is such an interesting character. I cannot help but loving him so much and having a lot of fun with his character. It was wonderful. All the characters were just wonderful and added so much to the story that it's already so plot heavy and it's also so character heavy, and it's amazing. It does connect a lot with the Casimir, and this whole series is part of a larger world, and a lot of Sanderson books connect to the Casimir. I have just read Mistborn as if the Casimir works, so there are a bunch of things that I don't truly understand. Like, I kind of understood them because I have watched other parts, and no spoilers, I don't have spoilers, but I do kind of help me understand things. But just having read Mistborn, the first era made me understand a lot of things that are happening here, and that was really fun. It's just really fun to see the genius of this man, that it's not just in this very complex world, but there are also a bunch of other worlds. There are very complex worlds as well, and that we also get to explore a little bit of. I don't know, it's amazing and it was so fun. You don't need to have read a lot of other Casimir works to understand it, but it does help, I think. But you can still understand it without having read a lot of other Casimir works. So don't worry too much about it, but I just think that you appreciate it more once you have it, to see all the little pieces coming together in his world. It's amazing. It was so amazing to see. Another thing is that we do learn quite a bit about the enemy. In this book we have had a presence of the enemy before and we have gotten to see them, but I do think that we get more into their minds in this book with Rabonian and other of the characters, the Pursuer and other of the characters. We do get to see more of the enemies in this book, and that was really fun. I love getting to see their point of view because nothing in this series it's just black and white. It's very mixed and it's very gray and it's very complex, and I just love seeing all those things getting into the mind of everyone. It was really fun. We do have flashbacks as we do in each of these books. We follow the backstory of one specific character. This one was Bentley's, and it was a lot less to work with, I will say, than the other ones. Flashbacks don't appear until like halfway through the book, I will say, so I was very confused when at the beginning there were no flashbacks, but we do get them and they were fun. I enjoyed them, but we had seen a bunch of these things happen before, so at some point they felt a little like, okay, we already knew this. But they were still really fun. I enjoyed them. I enjoyed that there were so many because, as I say, we already know a bunch about this particular character, but it's always fun to just get to see what she was actually thinking in these specific times and connecting all the dots. It was really fun and great to make memory of the things because I could not remember a couple of them. As I said, it's very scholarly, it's very into the technical side of things, but it is explained wonderfully and simply. Even though it's complex, I don't think it's very overly difficult to understand it, and I do think that they are really fun to get to see all the little details and how everything works. So I truly enjoy that part, and I truly just enjoy the political schemes that Sanderson concocts because they're always so fun and intricate, and I just love getting into all those mind games, I guess. Yeah, it is also a very, very emotional book, like super emotional, that it deserves a bunch of trigger warnings, which I'm gonna give you right now. And it has depression, it has suicidal behavior and thoughts, it has dissociative identity disorder, it has self-worth issues, it has briefs between others, but those are mostly the more prominent of them. They are very hard-hitting, they're very well into it, and I think they are very well handled, raw and very understandingly. I know that Sanderson had consultants that helped him understand really what all of these things meant to be able to actually represent them correctly in his book, and he struck a very nice chord into them. So I do think that you need to be very careful going into the book and be sure that you are in the right mental space for it, because it is very heavy on that side of things, and you need to be, you know, respectful of yourself, and you matter more than a book. So have that in mind, because they do play very heavily with the book, all of those little things. And though it is very emotional and super heavy, it also has a lot of very great comedy. Sanderson has this way to making comedy in the most natural way, that it's just a natural comedy of situations or of phrases or just the sass of things, which really helps with adding levity to the book. And he was consciously trying to make the book a little less heavy, because it was very heavy, and this is still very heavy, but it does have these little moments of reprise that were very nice. So I love that, and I truly enjoyed it. The last thing I have to say is that I just love how the scope of the world just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger with each book. We understand it so much better now than we did at the beginning. Obviously, we have been in this book for a very long time because each book is gigantic, but everything just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and it's such a natural way to make everything bigger and to understand more. And as you understand more, you discover new sides of things, which is really fun. And I love the book to pieces. It took me a long time to read, because I started it on December 3rd or 4th and ended it up on January 4th. So it took me a whole month to read the book, but that is no fault of the book. It was just, I was really busy, but having all that time to enjoy it was the best. I enjoyed every second. It was so engaging, it was so fun, and such an amazing book. I gave it 5 stars, and I will give it more if I could. And I'm not surprised, because it is a Sanderson book and he writes amazingly, but I did love every tiny second of it, and it was such an amazing journey, and I just can't wait to get more of it, because it's just so amazing and so fun. Let me know down below what you thought of Rhythm of War, if you have read it, or if you have not read any Sanderson book. Tell me down below as well, because I would love to recommend you some way to start, because I think he's a great author. And yeah, if you like the video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and click the little bell icon so you can get notified every time I post a new video. You can follow me on my social media. I have Instagram and Goodreads, where I'm posting more to date what I'm reading and what I think about what I'm reading, and we can chat more over there. And I'll see you next week. Bye!